Did you have any idea you could split the block of land that you already had owned or had a contract on?
Not at all.
Hey guys, I'm just here with Tawanda, who's a student of our Develop It course. Tawanda is an absolute gun doing a fair few projects at the moment, jumping head in or head first into doing property development, getting his feet really wet, and doesn't come from that background, comes from a completely unrelated background and professional background. And yeah, just wanted to have you on, Tawanda, to let other people know what's possible and that you don't need previous experience. So I'll hand the reins over to you and hand the floor over to you. Just give us a bit of an idea, who you are, what you do as a career, and what your location is, where you're based, and where you're looking for developments.
Thanks, Adam. So I'm based in Victoria, Melbourne. And yeah, definitely IT background, completely different to developments. I've been an IT professional for about 15 or so years, or slightly underneath that. And have just, kind of built where we lived sort of thing before doing your course. What was the other question?
Okay, so you had experience building one house, the one you live in.
One, and I didn't do it for like 7 years after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're Melbourne based, and a lot of people are based in Melbourne, Sydney that we teach. And I'll ask you another question later about the principles, but just to get straight off into it with like the deals that you're doing, what are you doing at the moment? What types of property development deals are you actively involved with now?
Yeah, at the moment, I think we're trying to build a pipeline. So we sort of, from that one house, we took out some equity, bought a block of land that we've sat on for like 4 years. And it was quite sizable. So actually, after doing your course, realized we can put more than just one dwelling on it. So we're trying to split that and kind of do a hybrid in a new estate. But yeah, predominantly finding it easier to just secure blocks of land in new estates while we try and find, sites that we can split in established neighborhoods. So that kind of single house, 1 into 3s, duplexes, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. I know we don't want to talk specifically about numbers, but I know we're throwing some numbers around, as in profit numbers on one of the deals, and we're talking about a couple of 100,000 just on a small split. Is that right? Is that in the ballpark without stitching you up with with an exact profit figure? But
close enough, very, very close, and very tangible, it seems, if we do manage to pull off the split.
Okay.
Yep.
And prior to doing the course with me, did you have any idea you could split the block of land that you already had owned or had a contract on?
Not at all. So what we thought we'd do down the track was have one of our parents come over and have them as a granny to justify building a granny flat.
Okay.
Which is a rule in Victoria. Like, you could only get a granny flat if you have a granny.
If you get the granny. Got it. All right. Oh, that's really awesome. And I remember when you told me that, whenever that was, a few months ago, that you had this block of land, and by doing the course, you spoke to a town planner. The town planner told you could split it. You started looking at the servicing and feasibilities. And when I looked at it, it seemed like it had a couple of $100,000 of uplift just splitting the land. So it was well worth the investment for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely.
So I know you're looking at some other deals, like there was a duplex deal you looked at that had what, $800,000 profit. Again, I don't want to stitch you up with the profit, but now that you have that vision as such, or have that knowledge, you looked at one deal that's got 800 grand, and you've got however many other deals on the cards that have got what, hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit or potential profit. It's not banked yet, but how have you transitioned, just for people thinking, is this possible for me? Or, if I do the course, will I be any better off? What's been the difference pre-course to now doing the course and having a different lens looking at properties?
Oh man, I think my perception on opportunities has definitely changed. So I don't know, I thought I'd find something you can do that much effort, work in, and get such a return on the activity. To kind of make that same amount of money, I would have been thinking I have to work overtime, extra hours. So that's probably the biggest difference in now how I look at money in that perspective, and how to, I guess, generate it and what it could do for us, I guess, as a family. So yeah, that one deal could have retired me and my partner if effectively, or made more than what we can make in a couple of years. So
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
it is an eye opener for sure.
Yeah. Like creating the money, not earning it, creating the wealth.
Correct. Probably
Yeah.
also not waiting for the market to do that is what we were doing before. So yeah, we just have the one house, let the market push it up in value type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Now I know you're in the accumulator as well. And we were just talking about, and I know you haven't completed the accumulator, so I won't ask you specifically about it. But even just talking about retaining properties. So for those people that are looking at doing development as an active strategy, you've also got the passive hold strategy. Again, I know you were talking about selling one of your properties to then be able to afford another one. The difference for you, like, I mean, if you could hold property long term versus having to sell it, like, how has that changed your perception of investing just generally, or creating wealth long term?
I think I think selling was, I'd always have to put back in the work to kind of make the next amount of money. But I guess when you see the power of the asset kind of making money over time, it kind of, it changes your thinking. It's like I was telling my partner, it's like having a fruit tree. You plant it once, and every year you just come back and expect the fruits to be on the tree, or like, some fruit to be on the tree.
Versus selling it to somebody else who gets the fruit.
Yeah, so you only get it the first year. If you sell it, you get the fruit the first year, and then that's it. You're done. You walk away.
Yeah, very true. Absolutely. Just on a couple last questions before we wrap up. How did you find out about me and the course initially, and what made you actually join and take the leap of faith?
So yeah, obviously saw you through YouTube doing an interview with another YouTuber. I should be dropping names, but yeah, it was relatable. I think obviously seeing that you're young in the development course, in the development community, tends to be a lot of the other guys are more mature, more experienced. It just felt like it's more relatable. You're probably closer to us at the beginning of that journey, and potentially, someone we can grow with over time as well, this sort of thing. But in the course itself, or in that interview, it was clear that you could explain things clearly, break it down, and it was just like, that I could learn from that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. All right. That's fantastic. So why did you actually join in the first place? What was the, I'm relatable, I can teach things. What made you want to do something that's a bit different and spend, a significant amount of money in both courses, not just the development one, but also the other one? What's the payoff for you other than money?
That's a good point. So I guess looking at you, it was clear that obviously you've got the academic background as well as the experience side of things. And there's obviously, you don't need to go to school to then do development. You can just do a course like yours, but it kind of, I guess, put you in a different place and space. Coming from where I come from as a professional, like I like to learn the theoretical, the technical, and then also the practical, and do it on the ground. So it just felt like I could get both.
What about the actual decision though? Like, what was the motive? Because there's plenty of people like, oh yeah, you've got the results, but I'm not Adam, I'm not an engineer, or I'm not Tawanda, I'm not a software designer. And we've got people from all different walks of life and all the rest of it. But what was the driver? Like, what's been initially the instigator, but then what's the motivation? Because I think that's the key. Is if you've got the motivation, you'll do it. Doesn't matter whether you've got 0 skills or you've got 1 million skills.
That's a tough question to answer. I don't think I've stopped and thought about it, but yeah, definitely, ramping down what I do as a career, because that activity you can only produce so much in terms of results. And getting back some of that, freedom of time.
I think you said it before, like retire, both you and your
your
absolutely. Partner.
Absolutely. So that's for both of us, 100%.
Okay. So would you So just if somebody else is watching and they're like, oh, cool, I can retire my partner if I do one development. Would you say absolutely go for it? You know, jump in. What have you got to lose? Is
I'd say
that
strongly
kind
consider.
of your mentality? I know you're very calculated and analytical, and so am I, but
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I'm off the cuff, and a lot of the times I take my time thinking about it. But yeah, I thought about obviously how I'd bridge the gap, so the time in between actually getting the results of my first deal.
yeah.
But knowing that, yeah, if I get to that end point, definitely it'll be worth it. So yeah, obviously everyone's different, but yeah, I can see that light at the tunnel, that like the results are definitely like,
Yeah, it's not like get rich tomorrow. You're going to make 100 grand in your first month.
you got to have realistic expectations, but
yeah,
you can see that the results are there at the end. So I'm one of those people that also invested in other things, so like crypto and what have you. And
yeah. How did that go for you? How did that go versus property?
In two waves. So I jumped the early bandwagon that, you know, it was $300 a pop for a
Oh,
coin.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So you did well out of crypto.
that one. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say that live online.
All right, we'll snip that bit.
But the second
Okay.
the second wave obviously had waves of emotion, because, you know, everyone's jumping in, you know, high numbers, tops being hit,
Yeah.
and then it just reverses the other way. Whereas with property and being active in development, there isn't such huge swings, and you're
Yeah.
still in control, I guess, in terms of the outcomes you can have. Yes, there's challenges like inflation and builders, you know, costs
Yeah.
going up, but yeah, it's within
I think the biggest one is people will always have confidence in property and
correct.
well located property. I'm not talking about property in the middle of Australia or in a mining town that fluctuates like Bitcoin,
Yes.
and may drop to zero at some point. But I think from what I have seen, people that are invested in different things, is most people have the majority of their wealth in property, and they're not scared to throw more money at it versus, you know, the Bitcoin or the share market. And for those people that are in shares, no offense, with all due respect, but for the majority of people that I've met, most people will have, you know, most of their portfolio in property because they know it's not going to drop to zero. Is that fair to say as well, even though you've made lots of money out of Bitcoin?
That's very true. So probably the thing I haven't told you is I'm actually from Zimbabwe, so I've actually seen that play out. So I've actually seen the nation's currency collapse, but
Oh, yeah.
real estate prices just be repriced at whatever the new currency
Okay.
is. So yeah, I've seen kind of like
The other end where real estate
stories.
isn't stable.
Yeah, and that was the only thing that held up. So the stock market, yeah, you still logged in and you had, you know, the same zeros worth of stocks, but they weren't worth much. That didn't buy as much as before. Whereas that property that you held, developed, or bought passively was just revalued at today's price or whatever the inflation.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying the property went up as inflation went up.
Correct.
Okay, so the property wasn't left behind, whereas the share market and the other assets were, because of the devaluing of the dollar, which I read some stuff about when Zimbabwe was going through that massive inflation. I haven't looked at it for a while, but there was something like 1,000% inflation or something crazy, where the article was actually, and I won't go off topic too much before we wrap up, but the article was about that it was cheaper to burn money than it was to go down and buy firewood, because by the time you buy it, bring it back and burn it, the dollar, you wouldn't actually have enough money to buy it by the time you actually went down there.
Right. So here's one of those in my wallet. I don't know if you can see that.
A bit blurry.
Well, it's a $10 trillion note.
No way. We're all loaded.
And so I worked the first year in Zimbabwe after high school, and in that environment, my take home pay couldn't take me back to work. Okay. What's that? 10.
Wow, there's a lot of zeros on that.
Zeros. So yeah, so and in that market, I saw stocks had the same hit, everything else, but property was kind of the only thing that was
well, we just wouldn't even contemplate or wouldn't be able to fathom that in Australia.
Yeah.
We are very lucky in that sense, but it goes to show you property does well in all markets.
It has utility.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that with inflation over time as well. Just even recently with our inflation funnels through into property in a big way. Even with now with construction prices, it's funneling through to push the values up higher as a result of increased construction costs. So anyway, we won't digress too much. Thanks very much for filling us in and on your journey, and I look forward to catching up with you again in 6 or 12 months time and having a few more of these projects under your belt. And hopefully for those people watching, you got some real value out of listening to Tawanda, and not just me, and just knowing what's possible from education, really, and doing something a little bit different from the norm. And looking at things, I think the biggest one is looking at it from a different lens, which you mentioned. You see deals everywhere, you see them all the time now because you know what to look for. And that's how I felt when I did my first development course as well, a number of years ago. I was looking at everything through a different lens, and I was looking at it from the lens of how much can I make from this development and what that money would mean to me long term. And my motivation was quitting work initially, getting time freedom back, which is most people's, and then being able to spend that with the family. So that was always relatable. It was the money relating to the time, how much time that bought me. So that was my motivation, and very similar to yours and most people. So anyway, thanks so much for sharing that with us. Really appreciate it. And I hope people listening have got some real value out of it. And thanks very much again. And I'll end it there.